This is my ranking of the best city building games I've played, based purely on my personal experience. Each game is placed from masterpiece down to trash, depending on how creative the systems are, how well the city management works, and how memorable the overall building experience feels. Let's dive right into the list. RimWorld starts as a simple colony survival game, but very quickly it grows into something much deeper. I begin with a few stranded survivors on a harsh planet trying to build shelter, grow food, and stay alive. What really makes it stand out is the colonists themselves. Each one has unique traits, flaws, and habits that shape daily life in the settlement. Some refuse certain jobs, others panic in danger, and a few make terrible choices at the worst possible moment. Because of this, every colony slowly becomes a chain of unpredictable stories. One moment things run smoothly, and the next a raid, fire, or wild animal can throw everything into chaos. The game gives guidance without total authority, which means constant adaptation to unexpected situations. All of that easily secures a place in the masterpiece tier. Foundation begins with a small medieval village and gradually grows into a lively town filled with farms, markets, and stone buildings. I start with only a few villagers and basic tasks like gathering wood, cutting stone, and producing food. As the settlement expands, more systems appear, including taxes, churches, trade routes, and a large tech tree that unlocks new buildings and upgrades. One thing that stands out is the freedom in how the town develops. Instead of forcing everything into a strict grid, the village spreads naturally across the land, with roads and houses forming around daily activity. At first there is a lot to manage and it can feel overwhelming, but the tutorial and difficulty settings help smooth out that learning process. The colorful art style and busy villagers give the town a lively atmosphere. This belongs in the great tier. Manor Lords places me in charge of a growing medieval settlement where every house, farm, and workshop slowly shapes the town. I start small with only a few families, focusing on food, firewood, and basic production to keep everyone alive through the seasons. The building system stands out because roads curve naturally and houses form neighborhoods that feel organic instead of locked to a grid. I also like how many jobs happen right where villagers live, with small backyard workshops turning homes into places of work. The world itself looks beautiful, with detailed villages, changing weather, and busy daily routines across the settlement. There is also a light warfare system where militia units defend the region from bandits. Even in its current state, it clearly belongs in the excellent tier. Songs of Six starts as a small settlement, but quickly grows into a massive city-state where thousands of citizens can live and work at the same time. I begin by managing food, housing, and basic jobs, but the scale keeps expanding as the population increases. Different races bring their own strengths and challenges, which means every city develops differently depending on who lives there. Some groups focus on farming or crafting, while others are better suited for combat or specialized labor. The economic systems are also very deep, with research, trade, sanitation, and infrastructure all playing a role in keeping the city stable. If something goes wrong, loyalty drops and the entire society can spiral into chaos. Warfare and diplomacy add another strategic layer beyond building alone. All of that secures a place in the excellent tier. Oxygen Not Included begins with a few tiny colonists trapped inside an asteroid, and the objective sounds simple. Keep them alive with oxygen, food, and power while working towards space travel. I start by digging out small rooms, setting up bathrooms, growing crops, and producing oxygen, but the systems quickly grow far more complex. Heat, gas pressure, electricity, plumbing, and automation all interact, turning the colony into a giant engineering puzzle. One mistake can trigger a chain reaction where food spoils, oxygen runs low, or the entire base overheats. Fixing those problems requires creative setups with pipes, generators, and cooling systems that slowly evolve into complicated machines. At the same time, the art style keeps everything charming with expressive duplicates moving through the base. It clearly earns a spot in the masterpiece tier. SimCity 4 takes the classic city building formula and expands it into something much larger by letting me manage entire regions instead of a single city. I begin with an empty plot of land, zoning neighborhoods, building roads, placing services, and balancing the city budget while the population slowly grows. What makes this version stand out is how cities connect across the region. One town can handle industry, another can focus on housing, and they can trade power, water, and services with each other. The level of detail is impressive, from traffic patterns and pollution to small animations happening across the city. As the population rises, the challenge shifts toward transportation networks, finances, and city services while keeping citizens satisfied. Its depth and regional planning design secure a place in the masterpiece tier. Frostpunk 2 returns to a frozen world where survival depends on careful planning, but it reshapes the formula in major ways. Instead of focusing on a small city around a single generator, I now manage a far larger society with districts, multiple colonies, and long supply chains across the frozen wilderness. Expanding the city means building specialized districts for housing, industry, food, and logistics, while keeping the generator fueled and the population warm during brutal whiteout storms. One of the most interesting additions is the political system, where factions inside the council push their own agendas. Passing laws requires negotiation, promises, and strategic compromises, and ignoring one group for too long can lead to protests or losing control of the city. The larger scale adds strategy while reducing some of the original's intimacy. This places it in the great tier. Against the Storm blends city building with roguelike structure, creating settlements that feel different every time. I take the role of the Queen's Viceroy, establishing villages in a dangerous forest while trying to keep several species of settlers fed, warm, and satisfied. Each run changes because resources, buildings, and environmental conditions are randomly generated. Instead of building a single city forever, the focus shifts to solving short settlement challenges before the next devastating storm reshapes the map. Managing production chains, exploring risky forest glades, and completing the Queen's orders turns every village into a strategic puzzle with limited tools. Different species add another layer since each group prefers certain foods, services, and comforts. The dark fantasy setting, constant rain, and looming storms give the experience a tense atmosphere. This stands in the masterpiece tier. Banished places a small group of exiles in the wilderness where survival depends on careful planning and resource management. I build houses, gather food, and assign villagers to jobs such as farming, hunting, and chopping firewood. What makes the game interesting is how everything is tied to natural systems rather than money. Population growth depends on families having children, which means too many houses can cause food shortages while too few can slowly shrink the town. The changing seasons create constant pressure, especially during harsh winters when a lack of food or firewood can quickly lead to disaster. Building placement also matters since long travel distances reduce worker efficiency and disrupt the settlement's balance. Even a stable village can collapse after a few bad seasons. This fits into the great tier. Cities Skylines offers a huge sandbox for designing and managing a modern city from the ground up. I lay down roads, zone neighborhoods, and set up essential services like power, water, healthcare, and education to keep everything functioning. As the population grows, new buildings and systems unlock, gradually transforming a small town into a sprawling metropolis. Traffic management becomes a major puzzle as the city grows, encouraging construction of highways, railways, and public transport networks to keep movement efficient. Zooming closer reveals citizens traveling to work, school, and leisure across busy streets. This sits comfortably in the masterpiece tier. Workers and Resources Soviet Republic is one of the most detailed city builders I've played, focusing heavily on managing every part of a planned economy. I start by building a small Soviet-style town, but quickly realize that running it means controlling far more than just roads and houses. I have to manage transportation lines, production chains, construction materials, energy, and even how workers travel to their jobs every day. The game allows a huge level of control, but once everything starts working together, the systems feel incredibly rewarding to manage. Watching a fully functioning republic grow from a small settlement into a large industrial state is very satisfying. This one earns its place in the excellent tier. Farthest Frontier focuses on guiding a fragile medieval settlement through constant survival challenges. I begin with only a few settlers and limited supplies, trying to gather food, build shelters, and prepare before the first harsh winter arrives. Early decisions revolve around simple needs like farming, fishing, firewood, and basic housing, but problems quickly appear if resources are mismanaged. Wildlife attacks, diseases, fires, and bandit raids can suddenly disrupt everything, forcing the town to adapt quickly. The town slowly evolves from scattered huts and dirt paths into a complex settlement with defenses, trade, and advanced production. This one belongs in the great tier. Sid Meier's Civilization VI expands the classic 4X strategy formula with deeper systems that make each empire feel more strategic and distinct. I guide a civilization from ancient beginnings to global influence while balancing science, culture, diplomacy, and military strength. One of the biggest changes is the district system, where cities spread across multiple tiles and specialize in different roles. That design forces careful planning since every district and wonder occupies valuable land. The government policy system adds flexibility by allowing different strategies through interchangeable bonuses. Technology and civic boosts reward actions taken during the campaign, encouraging adaptation to the map and current situation. Leaders follow specific agendas that shape diplomacy and rivalries throughout the game. The layered mechanics and long-term planning give every campaign meaningful depth. It sits in the masterpiece tier. Whiskerwood is a settlement management game where a colony of mice tries to survive and grow across small islands while paying heavy taxes to their cat overlords. I begin by choosing an island and placing the core buildings needed to keep the colony functioning, such as storage areas, trade docks, and resource gathering sites. Workers, known as whiskers, take on different jobs like mining, fishing, or producing goods, and each one has unique traits that influence their behavior. Some prefer working alone, others become sick more easily, and a few perform better in harsh conditions. Resource management matters since taxes must be paid regularly or the cat rulers will punish the settlement. The vertical island layout also encourages building upward or digging into mountains for extra space. In its current state, it feels limited in scope. It goes in the mediocre tier. Dwarf Fortress is a colony simulation where I guide a small group of dwarves trying to build and maintain a fortress in a procedurally generated world. I manage digging tunnels, setting up farms, building workshops, and organizing jobs so the settlement can run properly. The game stands out because of how detailed its simulation is. Each dwarf has their own traits, relationships, and preferences, which slowly influence how the fortress develops. Learning how the systems connect takes time, but it becomes easier with experience. This sits in the masterpiece tier. Surviving Mars is a city-building game about creating and maintaining a human colony on the red planet. I manage drones and machines that gather resources, build power systems, and prepare the land before the first colonists arrive. Once people move into the domes, my focus shifts to keeping them alive by managing oxygen, water, food, and electricity. I spend a lot of time organizing pipes, cables, and storage so the colony can survive dust storms, equipment failures, and other dangers. I also like how the colony slowly expands from a small base into several domes with different industries and roles. The systems stay clear while still offering good strategic decisions. This fits in the great tier. Anno 117 Pax Romana is a city-building game set during the Roman Empire where I manage settlements, production chains, and trade across different regions. I build homes for citizens, provide goods, and upgrade them through social classes as their needs grow. As the city expands, I organize farms, workshops, and warehouses to keep resources moving smoothly. Trade becomes an important part of the experience, since some luxury goods require materials from different islands or regions. I also spend time managing ships and protecting routes from pirates while keeping supply lines stable. The systems are detailed but still manageable once everything is running. This earns a place in the excellent tier. Nova Roma is a city management game set in ancient Rome where I manage resources, buildings, and citizens while trying to gain favor with the emperor. I place workers on a grid to perform actions like trading goods, constructing buildings, recruiting followers, and completing contracts. Each action gives resources or points, and combining them is supposed to create different strategies during the match. While the structure works, many of the systems feel very familiar and not very exciting after a while. I spend most of the time repeating similar actions without feeling much connection to the theme or the city itself. The mechanics function, but they do not add anything memorable compared to other games in the genre. Even though everything technically works, the experience feels flat and forgettable. Because of that, it sits in the trash tier. That wraps up my ranking of the best city-building games and how they stack up based on my experience with them. You might want to add more to this, but that's how they land on my tier list. Thanks for watching.